Most people think impulse spending comes down to weak self-control, that it's about not being disciplined enough, about wanting things you don't really need. That explanation is comforting, because if discipline is the problem, the solution feels simple. Try harder, be stricter, show more restraint. But that story doesn't survive real life. Impulse spending has very little to do with willpower and almost nothing to do with intelligence. It's a psychological response, a deeply human one, and once you understand what that response is reacting to, impulse spending stops looking careless and starts looking almost unavoidable. Here's the part people don't like hearing. Most impulse purchases aren't made because you want something. They're made because you want to feel different. You're not buying because the product passed some rational evaluation. You're buying because you're mentally drained, because the day took more from you than you expected, because your brain is craving relief, distraction, or a small sense of control. The product itself is rarely the point. It's just the fastest available way to change how you feel. That's why impulse purchases often happen late at night, or after long work days, or during moments when you feel behind, overlooked, or emotionally stretched. Impulse spending is emotional regulation pretending to be consumption, and that's exactly why it doesn't respond well to advice like, just budget better. Your brain is constantly trying to do two things: reduce discomfort, conserve energy. Long-term planning is useful but optional. Short-term relief feels urgent. When you're tired, stressed, bored, or overwhelmed, your brain shifts into efficiency mode. Not financial efficiency, emotional efficiency. It starts looking for the quickest way to feel better. Not the smartest, not the cheapest, the fastest. Impulse spending works because it delivers immediate signals your brain likes. Anticipation, novelty, control, and reward. Your brain doesn't ask, will this help me next year? It asks, will this help me right now? And if the answer is yes, the decision is already made. The rest is just explanation. Impulse spending isn't random. It clusters around very specific conditions. It shows up when your mental energy is low, you've made too many decisions already, you feel under-rewarded for your effort, your emotional state is unsettled. That's why people can go weeks without spending impulsively, and then suddenly overspend in one sitting. Nothing about their values changed. Nothing about their goals disappeared. Their capacity to pause did. Impulse spending isn't about wanting more. It's about coping with less mental bandwidth. This is where things get uncomfortable. Smart people often believe they're less vulnerable to impulse spending. In reality, they're often better at justifying it. Intelligence doesn't prevent emotional decisions. It explains them afterward. A tired brain pulls the trigger. A capable brain builds a convincing narrative. I deserve this. This isn't that expensive. I've been disciplined lately. This will save me time. I'll balance it out later. These explanations sound reasonable, but they're not decision frameworks. They're rationalizations. Being smart doesn't stop impulse spending. It just makes it harder to notice. Impulse spending survives because it rarely feels dangerous in isolation. It's usually small, spread out, frictionless, easy to forget. No single purchase feels like a mistake, so there's no moment that triggers alarm. The damage shows up later, as anxiety, stalled progress, and the sense that money never quite accumulates. Impulse spending doesn't destroy finances dramatically. It erodes them quietly. The biggest cost of impulse spending isn't the money, it's the gradual loss of control. Every impulse purchase reinforces a pattern. When I feel uncomfortable, I spend. Over time, that response becomes automatic, and once behavior is automatic, motivation stops mattering. This is why people can earn well and still feel financially stuck. They're not bad at math. They're stuck inside a loop they don't know how to interrupt. Traditional budgets assume something unrealistic, that decisions are made calmly, ahead of time, with full mental clarity. Impulse spending doesn't happen in that state. It happens when you're tired, when you're overstimulated, when emotions are already in charge. By the time a budget enters the conversation, the decision is no longer rational. Budgets explain what you should do. They don't change when decisions are made. That's why people can understand budgeting perfectly and still overspend. Impulse spending didn't become common by accident. Modern systems are designed to remove friction. One-click purchases, saved cards, instant delivery, personalized suggestions. Friction is the pause where reflection lives. Remove it, and impulses flow freely. This isn't a moral failure, it's an environment doing exactly what it was built to do. You don't stop impulse spending by trying harder. You stop it by redesigning the environment where it happens. That means adding friction, creating delays, removing access during low-energy moments, automating decisions before emotion enters the room. Not because you're weak, but because your tired brain shouldn't be making important financial decisions. Your future self cannot negotiate with your exhausted self. So you design systems that don't require negotiation. Impulse spending isn't a character flaw. It's a predictable response to stress, fatigue, and modern design. And once you stop blaming yourself and start changing the system, the behavior loses its grip. But there's one more piece of the puzzle most people don't expect. The regret that comes after an impulse purchase doesn't take days. It often shows up almost instantly. In the next video, why you regret purchases almost instantly, we'll break down what your brain expected that purchase to fix and why that feeling collapses so fast. If you want to understand money at the level where behavior actually changes, subscribe. This channel isn't about discipline, it's about clarity.